Namaste, World Raiser, Sabina and Roger here. We just watched Ram Dass and Swami Satchidananda, and we didn't do an intro before because we weren't sure what it is about, because the title didn't say.
Yeah, Sabina got into one of those states. The tears flowed a little bit. So yes, an incredible talk and a discussion. It almost looked like they were on some sort of talk show host. And yeah, very great questions, extraordinary answers. So please watch this with us, and if you make it to the end, Sabina has a hilarious
Unbelievable.
What? People need to see that.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari 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 Om.
Documentaries. With that logo.
Look how happy.
Oh.
Sweet.
Oh.
Awesome.
Are we the same? Is there a oneness in all humanity?
Absolutely. Krishnamurti has a beautiful image. He says everybody thinks they're islands, and there's the ocean all around the islands. But when you start to focus on the ocean and are aware your identity is the ocean, and you have an island, but that isn't who you are, you and I are the same ocean, right? But we are busy with different islands. Now, you can either think you're the island or you can think we're the ocean. And the ocean is the awareness that surrounds it all. There's an evolutionary process of consciousness or spirit in which every human being is in some way returning to the one or returning to God or awakening or coming back into being conscious. They get lost in the separateness, in the island, forgetting the ocean, and then through birth after birth after birth, they keep cleaning up and awakening until finally they begin to realize they're the ocean and not the island.
Essentially, in the life of Christ, then, as Christ...
Christ said, you're not the island, you're the ocean. He says, look, nail me up, I'll show you. It's no big deal. I'll drop it, and then I'll come back, because that isn't what it's about. He freed everybody, but nobody would listen. He said, you know, that you aren't this. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Go in and find out who you really are.
How have you come to deal with some of the things, I mean, for all of the wisdom, or whatever we want to call it, you've acquired on this journey to achieve a sense of who you are and a great inner truth? How do you deal with things like being late?
What? Being late?
Being late. You know, Ram Dass is expected at the auditorium at 8 o'clock, and he's caught in a traffic jam, and he's going to be at least 45 minutes late. He's stuck in traffic. In a situation like that, where many of us would rip the steering wheel off our car, what do you do?
Enjoy the cosmic humor.
Enjoy
of the predicament.
Of the predicament.
Yeah. It's as if, at one level, you're like watching a moving picture of your own life unfolding. You're watching the melodrama unfold. I mean, the Ram Dass melodrama is just another drama. And behind it all, I'm sitting in the ocean. All right? I'm no more Ram Dass than I am Bill Boggs. I'm just here. You're talking to this thing, which you assume is me, but that's just this thing that was late in traffic, okay? And I can watch the whole process unfolding: decay, death, birth, joy, happiness, suffering, sadness, the stuff of life, the stuff of late, being early, being responsible, being irresponsible. And you're totally involved in the sense that you play it perfectly. You do it with total involvement, love, and compassion to relieve suffering of human beings. And at the same moment, there's no clinging to it. It's as if I'm not clinging. I'm aiming to get to the studio in time, but I'm not clinging to it. If I don't, okay, I didn't.
And how about ambition, Ram Dass? How do you address yourself to those who are where you were back in the late 50s and early 60s, who are very committed to being a success or achieving?
You can go on doing the dance you're doing perfectly without, you can go on being a moderator, being Bill Boggs, being perfect in your game, in your way of life, in your involvement, and at the same time deepen your connection and become aware of who you are behind the whole thing without losing a step in it at all. In other words, the achievement goes on, but you cease to be identified with being the achiever.
One's
That's
ego
what's breaks.
then must fall away in this process.
The ego
isn't it?
is a functional entity. It's just like your suit. It keeps you warm. Your ego is a functional unit for defining the world and yourself in it. But the difference is your ego is not the master, it's your servant. Your intellect's not your master, it's your servant. Your emotions are your servant. Your body is your servant. And behind the servant, you are. So you sort of sit. You're along for the ride, if you will. You're perfectly free. It's that flip on the television receiver where you and I are always right here. You want to be a moderator? I'll be the guest. Okay?
Yes.
Now who should we be?
Yes.
All right? We'll play whatever parts we have to play.
Parts you want.
That's the Dharma. We play whatever we need to play to bring ourselves and everything else to liberation.
In terms of our spiritual fulfillment, there is not one true way. There is no need for...
Well, ultimately there is only one goal.
The goal is...
Behind all these pursuits, everybody wants to be happy. Whatever they do doesn't matter.
Why do you feel in the history of man there have been so many wars over religion, or people have fought and killed each other over religious beliefs?
The egoism got into the religion also, in the label. They said, my label is the best.
Nothing,
They-
excuse me.
There's nothing, they have not gone to the very depth of the religion. They have not understood the basic purpose of religion. When they stick to the superficialities, they say, my way is the best. But if anyone has gone to the depth of the religion, they will never say that. It's something like, if suppose I ask you, what is the purpose of eating? We all agree in one purpose.
That's stay alive.
Yeah,
I would assume.
that's all. But if I ask you, what do you eat for that purpose?
Probably too much. a lot
Too
of
much.
junk.
You may say, oh, if you like spaghettis, you may say spaghettis. If I like pudding, I will say pudding. Then, because of my liking to a pudding, I develop a religion behind the pudding and say, mine is pudding religion, and pudding is the only one that could satisfy the purpose.
Yeah. Oh,
And because
wow,
of your liking to a spaghettis, you build a spaghetti religion, and the pudding and spaghetti fight.
Yes, they do. And it's a terrible mess.
None of us has really understood the purpose.
And the purpose is...
Purpose is to be happy. That's like, that is the religion. If at all, what is the meaning of religion? To go back, to bind back what you have lost probably. We were happy once. Somehow we lost it. And we want to get that happiness back.
From the back of Be Here Now by Ram Dass, I read this morning this on the value of silence, which I'd be curious to have both of you relate to. Stop talking, stop thinking, and there is nothing you will not understand. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, because who is thinking and who is talking? It's the mind. It's not the real you. The real you seems to be witnessing everything without taking part in anything.
How can an individual who intellectually might not be able to grasp that concept of the real you understand what you're saying? If you were to teach that, how would you...
That's why normally I don't go to the level of telling people that you are the real you, the awareness. Instead, I will place them as the mind. Because there are different places from which we are functioning. We can identify ourselves to be the body. And there comes, I am white, I am black, I am fat, I am thin. You identify yourself as the body. If you identify yourself as the mind, then you become a professor, an ignorant, a fool, or this or that. It all connected with the mind, the sane or insane. So these are the two realms in which we always talk about. So wrong position, wrong place in ourselves.
Ram, from your experience, how can an individual recognize that part of them that is in fact detached?
I would say that if you just sat down quietly and started to follow your breath, and every time you have a thought, even the thought, I'm following my breath, or I wonder what's going to happen, you let the thought go by, just as if you were watching leaves go down a stream, just letting the thoughts go by, and keep returning back to the breath. And for just 20 minutes, you follow your breath. That's all. You will know more than all the discussion we can have about how your own mind keeps creating stuff and the quiet space right behind your own mind. right? Just experience it for yourself. It's as simple as that. That's what I would say.
The mind is like a prankster who constantly is
The
stealing.
mind keeps grabbing. It says, think of me, I'm real, think of me. Okay?
I'm one of those individuals who has difficulty doing that because when I try to remain silent, I can't let go of the thoughts. My mind will go off
That's
all of a
why
sudden.
you do the breath.
I'm floating down the river with the thoughts, you know.
That's because that's why you need what's called a primary object, like the breath. See, the instruction is keep coming back to your breath, which is a thought. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. But it's you pick one thought, and that gives you like a focus point, which allows you to see all the rest of the thoughts. Later, that one goes too. Okay?
Nice.
Just say,
It's something like a catalytic agent. So
The
take,
breath
for
is-
example, a material is dirt. And how do you get rid of the dirt? You buy a piece of dirt from the shop, which you call soap. Huh?
that's right.
You apply that dirt with this dirt and let them chum up in
I
water.
love it. Yeah.
And at the right time, you just take the material out, the old dirt and the new dirt both remain in water. So all these practices are like this soap,
Nice.
catalytic agent.
That's right.
Instead of holding to the other dirt, you hold to this beautiful, good-looking, nice-smelling dirt.
Great analogy.
There is a deep spirit here, and I think it's in some way like an initiation of us recognizing that it's time for us to acknowledge our identity in the universe as instruments of peace and of healing, and of surrendering more deeply into that, of realizing that we are in impeccable peace-seer training as opposed to impeccable warrior training. And that it's time to listen more deeply to the harmonies of the universe and to find our way into it, to honor our intuitive heart and to start to find that balance between heart and mind, between form and formless. I think it's time to recognize that we are loved and to allow ourselves to feel that we are loved. And to accept the power that that gives us to become instruments of that which is good in the universe. There are moments in everybody's life that are critical moments in which you start to turn. Let this be one of them. Thank you.
Together
Swami
again.
Satchidananda.
If we can live together for 2-3 days like this, we can always live together. This itself is an example. And we all look for happiness. Every individual. Nobody wants to be unhappy. But all the great thinkers, sages and saints have said that there is no happiness without finding peace in your heart. Then the question arose, where can I find peace? The answer is, the moment you become totally selfless, totally dedicated, there is no end for your peace. I'm just quoting the Bhagavad Gita. It says, Ashantasya kuta sukham. Where is happiness for the peaceless person? And then, how to get peace? The answer is, Tyagat Shantiranantaram. and your life is dedicated, and you are free from selfishness, and you break your little individuality and feel that you are part of the whole, and you are here to serve others and to bring happiness to others, then you have found happiness. So let us rise above all these man-made differences in the name of race, religion, caste, creed, community, country, language, and color and whatnot. See the one spirit in everybody, and not to miss every single opportunity to serve others and to bring happiness to others with all the possible ways.
Beautiful.
Brought the tears.
Ram does that, and Swami Satchidananda too. Beautiful.
Yeah, that was a jackpot video, seeing those two together, unleashing the profound wisdom. And I love how it's so simple, right? So their teachings are very, simple to understand, right? So anybody can do the practice, even with the, the question of how to settle the mind and still the mind, right? And beautifully explaining, the breath analogy, going back to it. And then Swamiji, expounding on it with the soap, right? And then they're both dirt.
Fantastic.
Using different dirts to, to eliminate, the defilements, right? And then the cloth comes out clean, right? So using the breath, and then, even using the thought of focus on the breath to keep your mind focused on the breath. And then, we've done those practices, and it does work. I did
amazing
a lot of breath work, meditation when I was practicing.
When you were practicing sitting.
When I went back in the day, yes, I did.
Roger was a good boy.
I was going to say shamatha.
Sitting.
Oh, I did. When we were in retreats.
I know now.
Yeah. Right now, pretty busy. But yes, I can always... But once you have it, like Ram Dass was saying, that once you've experienced it and tasted it, then you know what it is, and that never leaves you, right? So for me to enter into a still mind state is instant. I can do it right now. No problem. And that's why everybody needs to experience that, especially if you're spiritual seekers on the path, right?
Yeah.
Because then that's that...
I experience it too, but I can't just do it like this.
Yeah, well, just because you can't doesn't mean that you have to be, critical of me being able to do it.
No, but there's always going further, not settling with this.
Well, absolutely. I'm not settled with it. I'm just saying that is possible, right?
No, sometimes I feel like he's
being
settled with
encouraging.
it, and that
no,
makes
absolutely,
me sad.
Absolutely not. As soon as we have time. So right now I'm working too much, and we're doing all of this.
At the moment, we have a different mission. That's true.
Like, when do we have the time to, transcend the ego completely? But we've made our intentions. We've set our, our path and our journey, enlightenment as quickly as possible for the sake of all sentient beings. But then what do we do as part of that, right? So we're still, letting go, as we're in day-to-day life, right? So it's all practice in the end, right? Practicing karma yoga, right? Surrendering all actions onto God. Bhakti, devotion. One could say our whole being on YouTube is it's an act of devotion in itself, right? We're devoted to mankind. We're devoted to the world. We're devoted, to you guys. We're devoted to our inner spirit, devoted to God. So, so practice in day-to-day life, right? And I love, Ram Dass, closing that, now is the time, right? We have an opportunity as spiritual beings, and we need to do it. We need to encourage it. We need to be part of it, right? We need to awaken. There is an awakening happening, but if we all, succumb to all of the other distractions out there. And then that's not to say that you can't, you know, partake in anything. As you guys may know, like, we're Marvel fans and we're going to continue to be part of the mundane, but it's not our main focus. Our main focus is, of course, spirituality. And then that's living a spiritual life in today's world, right? And it's doable. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? We all have our own time, and eventually it will get to that point where the surrender happens naturally.
That just reminded me of the pudding religion, right? I love that
was
analogy.
great, yeah.
Fantastic. It's just like, you know, we all have a need for to eat, but we eat different things. The same, we all have a need to be happy and, you know, to find the truth and just go beyond.
Yeah.
And we satisfy that differently with different teachers, different teachings at different times. We're not going to eat the same food all our lives. We eat different things at different times. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it.
That was amazing,
And
right?
different fruits from different countries.
Yeah, and talking about happiness is the purpose of religion. And I could see the truth in that, because when we're talking about, you know, the higher states, you know, what goes along with them is bliss, is joy, which is like the epitome of happiness, right? So we could all technically be happy right now. So you got to think of like other, you know, realms of existence, like pure realms and heavens, right? You know, beyond the mundane. So where everybody's at a higher level of consciousness, there would be happiness, there would be joy. And you can see it even in today's world, you know, like maybe back in the prior, you know, yugas, right? The cycles of existence, right? Where there was a golden age, right? Where it was, you know, there was no war, there was no suffering, it was more peaceful, right? And then now we're in the degenerate times, but we got a little grace period. I believe that that's true, that where we have access to all these teachings, right? And I think the internet is playing a part in that, where now is the time that if you want to ascend and advance spiritually, there has never, ever been a better time than right now. Get some books,
Boom.
watch some videos, you know, practice, focus on the breath, meditate, get that taste. And then we're on the upward spiral. And then by you ascending and evolving spiritually helps everybody, right? Because we're coming from one source. It's one infinite field of consciousness, and we're all aspects and parts of that divinity, right? We're the ocean, not the islands.
And with that, thank you so much. I have to stop here. I just saw the time and I'm panicking.
Yeah, but I want to just touch on one more thing. The ocean analogy with the islands. I thought he was going to touch on it briefly, because you can think about it a different way if you're still seeing the islands and the oceans as two separate. Think of going down, because every island is still land, right? And then you go down to the bottom of the ocean and it's all still land. So you can see that even the islands aren't actually separate at all. They're still part of the earth. Get it?
No, but I feel like I will not get it. You want to really explain it to me?
Okay. An island isn't floating on water.
Yeah, it's floating on the ocean.
No, it's not floating.
Roger. What do you mean?
I love these things.
Roger. I knew why I wanted to get out of here earlier. Huh?
You think an island is floating?
Wait. Roger.
Okay, I want to see some laugh emojis down in the comment section. No, islands are still part of the earth. It's like, picture a mountain coming up from the ocean, and the peak of the mountain is the island.
But then the earth has to go kilometers and kilometers down to the ground of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, that's how the earth works. The earth is a big gigantic ball of rock, earth. And then the water fills in the low spaces. But it's still all earth. If you took away all the water, it would still be a solid mass of earth.
Oh, you mean the island wouldn't crash?
No, it would be a
It
mountain.
wouldn't fall.
It would be a mountain. That's amazing. Should I tell them about the stars story?
Rod. I
Sabina-
think that's enough for one
Sabina
video.
has a-
They're probably fainting already. It's like, oh God, here goes Sabina again.
Yeah.
Well,
So islands are not floating on water independent all by themselves. They're still part of the earth.
well, I learned something here.
Yeah, so anyways, that was my analogy. So thank you so much for joining us. Let us know what you think down in the comments and what you're doing to better yourself, to raise your consciousness and become more spiritual. And are you taking advantage of this most precious human rebirth? If you're watching our videos on this channel and joining us, then we already know you're on the journey, you're on the path. And yeah, we absolutely love you. Right? So that's what we need to do. Open our hearts.
Raise yourself and raise the world. I'm going to stop Roger here. We really have to finish. So thank you so much. We love you. Peace.
Peace.